Today we're going to do 8.3 on absolute value, which is one of my absolute favorite things to teach, no pun intended. So go ahead and open your notes to 8.3. And for the launch, okay, which I do not think is in your notes, they want you to think about, in track, if a discus thrower tries out for the track team, and thrower 1 throws the discus forward. So if you stand in this circle thing right here, that's usually where in track the discus thrower will throw. So if thrower 1 throws all the way over here to 150 feet, okay, but thrower 2 slips and throws the discus the wrong way, all the way over here, okay, if you're the coach, how would you record the distance of each throw, right? Because if you look at this, thrower 1 is going the correct way, but thrower 2 isn't. Who threw farther? What team or which thrower would you choose to win this competition? Okay, so we're going to go ahead on to our key concepts. Again, you should have your notes out and follow along. So, the absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on a number line. Since absolute value is a distance, an absolute value is never negative. So remember that absolute value is always positive. The symbol for the absolute value of a number is this. So anytime you see these two lines right here, these parallel lines with a number or a letter in it, that means absolute value.
The absolute value of 5 is the distance from 5 to 0. Starting at 0, count. 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5 units. 5 is 5 units from 0. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is the distance from negative 5 to 0. Starting at 0, count. 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, 5 units. Negative 5 is 5 units from 0. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Let's look at them together. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Opposite numbers have the same absolute value.
So let's talk about that. Okay, they're saying that negative 5 and 5 are opposites, right? We learned about that in a previous lesson in this chapter. Well, if we look at 0, because that's our starting point, okay, 5 is 5 units away to the right, and negative 5 is 5 units away to the left. So their absolute values are actually the same. On to part 1.
Finding the opposite of a number is not the same as finding the absolute value of a number. Sure, sometimes the opposite of a number and the absolute value of that number will be equal, but that won't always be the case.
So the absolute value is how many units away from 0 you are. So if this is 0, and they want us to find the absolute value of 9, well, 9's over here. So to get from 0 to 9, I am moving 9 whole units. Now, a lot of students will put their answer in these brackets, which is not correct. Okay, your answer just needs to be a number. If you leave it in the brackets, you're actually telling me to find the absolute value of that number. So let's look here at B. If negative 3 is over here, okay, and it's moving to the left 3 units, my answer would be 3. Okay, now some people, again, might be a little confused. If I leave the brackets around that, that's telling me to find the absolute value of 3 all over again. That's making an endless cycle. So again, the absolute value of negative 3, which is right here, is positive 3 or 3 units away. Do not put the brackets around that. Okay, C, go ahead and try this on your own. What is the absolute value of 0? Okay, go ahead and pause if you need to. Put it in your notes, and then let's go on to the got it on the next page. They want you to find the absolute value of negative 6 Here are a few of your answer choices. I would like for you to write what you think the answer is down. You can pause it if you need to, and then we're going to move on to part 2. So for part 2, it's going to be really, really important for us to stay organized and to think about why we place things in the areas they want us to. So this is greatest, okay, and this is least, which means I know I'm going to have to order from greatest to least. Now, keep in mind, anything with an absolute value bar around it, like this one, this one, this one, and this one, they'll all be positives, right? Because absolute value is always positive. It deals with distance. So I'm going to go ahead and circle those, and I would love for you to do that too, because we know they're going to have to be positive. All right? Now, the ones that are not circled are negative. So I'm going to look at the least. So I'm thinking about money. Which number up here that's not circled would I not want to have money-wise? Well, I wouldn't want to owe somebody $7. -7 seems like a little much. Okay, now after that, which one would I not want? Well, -3, and after that, -1. So I have now took care of all of my zeros, or my negatives, sorry. Now, I'm going to go ahead and look at these. So the absolute value of 0 will be 0. The absolute value of 1, well, 1 is 1 unit away from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of -3, well, -3, if I draw out my number line, sorry, it's a bad number line, and if this is 0 and this is -3, -3 is going to be 3 units away from 0 on the number line, +3, and -7 would be somewhere over here, but it is 7 units away from 0 on the number line, so that would actually be +7. So my answers from greatest to least will be called the absolute value of -7, the absolute value of -3, the absolute value of +1, the absolute value of 0, -1, -3, and 7. Go ahead and pause if you need to. And I would like for you to go through and try this got it on your own.
Order the values from least to greatest.
So
The absolute value of -5, -5, the absolute value of 2, -2, -3.
if it's going to help you, I want you to draw this number line on your notes, okay? And I want you to place these things where they belong, okay? I will check this tomorrow. Keep in mind, -2, -3, -5 are going to be negative, and the absolute values of numbers are always positive. Go ahead and freeze this so you can do that, and I will check your notes tomorrow. All right, on to the next page. It says, which is greater, the opposite of the absolute value of 3 or the absolute value of the opposite of 3? So we have a lot of the same words in there, but let's look at that. Okay, which is greater, the opposite of the absolute value of 3. So if I have the absolute value of 3 and we want the opposite of that, I'm going to put a negative sign in front of that. Okay, or the absolute value of the opposite of -3. Okay, so which one's bigger? Are they the same or are they different? Well, I know that this, the absolute value of -3, will always be 3. And the absolute value of 3 is 3, but I have to keep that negative sign in front of it. So which one is bigger? Would you much rather have $3 or -3? Okay, so the answer should be the absolute value of the opposite of 3 is greater than the opposite of the absolute value of 3. So go ahead and put this in your notes. Okay, the correct answer is this one right here if you want to underline that. Go and freeze if you need to, and I am going to move on. All right, we have a couple real world situations, and then you guys can go ahead and start your homework.
You can represent the positions of the divers relative to sea level using the integers -2 and -5. However, depth is a positive quantity, so the depths of the divers are given by the absolute value of -2 and the absolute value of -5. A college student is working during the summer to save money for the upcoming school year. She deposits the money she earns working. The money she withdraws she uses to pay for her living expenses. In which month did the college student spend the most money?
Withdrawals are written as negatives to indicate they are monies taken out of, or subtracted from, the account balance. The negative signs do not indicate that negative dollars are being withdrawn. Remember, the second you withdraw $20 from an ATM, the bank immediately records a $20 withdrawal on your account balance, even if you haven't actually spent the money yet. Speaking of spending money, I could really go for a sandwich about now.
So what they want us to do is look at which month did the college student spend the most money. If you think about the bank, a deposit is money that you're putting in. So maybe it's a paycheck, maybe it's your chore money that mom and dad put in there. Okay, a withdrawal is what you spend or you take out. Okay, so here you can see they take out $400. So they take away $400. Well, the absolute value of -400 is 400. The absolute value of -$325 is 325. Okay, the absolute value of 450 is going to be 450. Okay, and the absolute value of -$550 will be +550. So in which month did they spend the most money? Well, they went and they spent $550 in August. So I know my answer must be August.
You are diving off a boat into the ocean. You record your position relative to sea level on each dive. On which dive did you dive the deepest?
Okay, so for this one, they want you to look and see. Well, you know, the first dive you got 12 feet below sea level. The second dive you got 14 feet below sea level. The third dive you got -10 feet below sea level. And the fourth dive you got -8 feet below sea level. So go ahead and draw a number line going up and down. And if this is 0 and this is sea level, okay, think about the absolute value of all of these and go ahead and graph at what point or which dive did you dive the deepest. Okay, your answer choices are right here. Okay, I'm going to be checking to see which one you did. Now remember, you're going to want this number to be all the way down here because that is the deepest. We're going down. For each statement, give an example that shows that the statement is false. Okay, so go ahead and go through. I want you to give me a statement as to why it's false.
For each statement, give an example that shows the statement is false. 1. The absolute value of a number is less than the given number. 2. The absolute value of a number always equals the number. 3. The absolute value of a number is always the opposite of the number.
Okay, so I'll give you an example for 2. It says the absolute value of a number always equals the number. Well, if I have the absolute value of -9, we know my answer is 9. So 9 is not the same as -9. They're different. Okay, the absolute value is the numbers away from 0, the units away from 0, a given number is. -9 and 9 are not the same. So there's your answer for B. Go ahead and try, 2. Go ahead and try 1 and 3, and we'll discuss these in class tomorrow. When you are done, go ahead and do digits or your assignments that I gave you in class.